Hello, coffee lovers. My name is Russell Volts from Lake City Coffee. Today we're going to talk about how to make strong coffee. Now, why is that important? It's important for us because our coffee, we have gone to great extents to pick out the very smoothest coffee beans available on the planet. Uh, we also roast low and slow to get a very smooth coffee bean. But there's some folks that they're hell bent. They really want strong coffee. So what is strong coffee? A lot of people will sit back and usually big strapping men, with lots of hair in their face come to me and say, "Oh, I like a real strong cup of coffee." Strong coffee doesn't necessarily mean that it's really burnt and it tastes like grease from bearings in your car wheels. It's nothing like that. Strong coffee tastes like coffee, and it just simply is strong coffee. That's what we're going to talk about today. There's three primary factors in strong coffee, making strong coffee. One is, and the first two are in grounds. So how fine you grind it versus a coarse grind. So fine grind, coarse grind. Fine grind, you're going to get more flavor and a little bit more bitterness, but it's going to be strong. A coarse ground, you're going to get super smooth, but not a lot of flavor, generally speaking. Fortunately, with our beans, since they're so smooth to begin with, we can do a lot more with our beans than almost any other company I've ever run into could do with theirs. So let's talk about different brewing methods and basically what we would do. And let's go from the smoothest brewing method to the harshest, most bitter, strongest brewing method. And we'll talk about that. First of all is cold brew. So I just use a mason jar. And I put about half a cup to a cup of grounds, usually medium grounds for me. And I'll put that in with a quart of water, shake it up, stick it in the fridge, pull it back out, and sure enough, it's pretty strong, fairly strong coffee. Now, if you want it really strong, I throw a cup to two cups of grounds in this and let it sit overnight in water. It's going to be fairly strong for cold brew. And cold brew is like super, super smooth. So it's really nice. And don't be afraid taking that cold brew, sticking it in the microwave, and warming it up. Next is the AeroPress. A lot of people have heard of this. They're like $40 on Amazon. You can get them anywhere. And you can see there's a screen in the bottom. Put paper in there, put your grounds in, mix it up and let it sit for a while. So in this case, both cold brew, the AeroPress, and the French press are all very similar in the sense that they need time to steep. So coffee people like calling that extraction time. Being an old tea guy, a lover, I just call it steeping. So the longer you let it steep, remember we talked fine grind, coarse grind, and the other's time. So how long is it going to steep the water and the grounds mixing together? So in the AeroPress, this is of the hot brewing methods. I think the AeroPress is probably the smoothest and flavorful that you're, the smoothest anyway, and the flavor is somewhat subdued, which is fine. If you're looking for super smooth, AeroPress is a way to go, man. This is simple, fast, awesome way. But to make it strong, instead of using a quarter cup, see, this comes with the AeroPress, and I use it for everything. And that's about a quarter cup. If you want a really strong one, I have a buddy that comes, and he loves my coffee, and I'll put three of these in here, or three of these in an AeroPress with only for a 16-ounce cup of coffee. I use both of these so one of these for 16 ounces of coffee, 2 if you want it strong, 3 if you want it super strong. And I might even take the grinding. So here's a typical grinder. This is a Burr grinder, Krups So on the front, you can see how many cups of grounds it's going to make, and here's your fine or coarse setting. And what I'm trying to teach people is basically to move from the coarse to a little bit more fine. So a medium, maybe even a medium fine grind. Should be. I steep typically in both of these for 2 to 3 minutes. And if I'm really crazy, like I really want to slap in the face, I'll go 4 minutes. And it'll be very strong. I won't say bitter, but close to it. And you're going to pull out flavors out of this that normally in 2 or 3 minutes, you're not going to get. So that's the French press. Slow pour over it. Pretty much same thing. If you increase the amount of time that the water is in contact with the grounds, you're going to get a stronger coffee. If you have very fine grinds, which if you're using a paper filter instead of this metal one, you can go super fine. You're going to get it a lot stronger, a lot more flavor, but you're going to be pushing that envelope on, is it bitter or not? Anybody else's coffee, it'll be super bitter. Mine, you'd have to be working pretty hard to taste any bitterness out of it at all. Percolator. Don't underestimate this baby. Your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother mostly used this. And it's notorious for making strong, bitter, nasty coffee. Why? Because your great-grandmother percolated it for 10 to 15 minutes. That's why it was so bad. When it starts bubbling up into this little glass thing, I went hunting about a year ago, and I took this along just for simplicity. Never used a percolator, and I let it percolate for 3 minutes. Took it off, poured everybody a cup of coffee. It was super smooth. It was relatively strong. If I wanted to let this thing go to, say, 5 minutes, it would have been really strong. It would have been definitely pushing that bitterness edge, but it worked, and it worked exceedingly well. So next on my favorites list, espresso. I don't have an espresso machine. It's not my thing. But I went to a friend's house who buys coffee from me, had this super duper $1,400 espresso machine. He made me an espresso. Man, was it strong. But it wasn't bitter. It just blew my mind that it wasn't bitter. Now he's doing 50% medium, 50% dark of my coffee and grinding it up into a medium fine grind and putting it through the espresso machine. I mean, this thing was so strong, but not bitter, and tons of flavor. So if you're an espresso nut, our coffee is the way to go. So if you want great beans, fun people to work with, contact us. We're always here, and mostly we're here to provide you not only great beans, but to teach you how to make a great cup of coffee.